Once upon a time, in a room full of wonders, where every step leads to magic, and the journey of a true story begins here, with amazing guests and true miracles. Please like and subscribe for more amazing videos.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be on your show. It's an honor that you guys accepted our invitation to connect and to actually get more distribution of a message that I think needs to be heard worldwide, not simply in the United States, but worldwide. We need more people hearing a message of hope and of peace and harmony with one another, for us to evolve as a species, as a race. We just need to have all of the connections made between each other, between us and the spirits, between us and the universe, for us to truly be successful. I was actually ordained as a Christian minister before I discovered my true path. And I was ordained in 2001. And I served for 10 years as a chaplain with the Christian church before doing a whole bunch of research and discovering, obviously, my true path, which is following just a different path. Primarily, I still deal with many men and women who are struggling with returning from combat. I deal a lot with that. I deal a lot with people who have a substantial grouping of anxiety because there's a separation between themselves and what they believe or know to be true and what they feel society is forcing them to believe. So a lot of anxiety, and certainly the symptoms of reconciling thought processes we currently have against the acts of war, any type of conflict. When you come back to a civilian existence, you have to reconcile what got done over there and what you're going to do now, and how do I put it in a box and manage that going forward. So I deal a lot with that, all the while performing pagan rituals, ceremony, and pagan is such a horrible word because I'm really not pagan. I am an Indigenous Norse, and so I really feel that celebrating the earth and nature and nature's gifts to us as humans, I think is paramount to what I do. So, doing natural herbal remedies and natural healings and shamanic healings, it's what I do. Well, you have to remember that, and I can only speak for myself for sure, but as a shaman, my job is I don't do anything. My friends or clients, whatever you want to refer to, they're the ones that do this. I simply direct them how to use their own energy at which to heal themselves. A lot of misnomers that I have some magical powers or and that's just not the case. I simply know how you can use your own magical powers to heal yourself, to grow, to connect to your ancestors, all of these things. I'm simply a conduit for the instructions that you need to hear to actually provide that catalyst for you to do the work. I think a lot of people think, and there's a lot of real label protection, is what I'm going to call it. When people call themselves shamans, or people advertise them shaman, they really think, oh, I have this or that or this other thing. And when in fact, a true shaman, we are simply conduits between the physical realm and the spiritual realm. That's it. And so the energy necessary for magic, for healing, for growth, for intellect, for relationships, for all of those things, all exists within the individual. We simply align that energy in such a way that they can connect to the spiritual realm and create or manifest what they want, what they need, what they feel they want. A lot of times, part of the healing process, as I believe that you experienced, is really understanding what is wrong. Many times our perception of something broken, we are very quick to jump to the symptoms instead of to the cause. We want to fix what we can see, those hands-on kind of things, whereas going and helping the individual to see down underneath the hood what's really broken and get them to fix that. What they find is, by fixing that themselves, the symptoms go away. The symptoms simply dissolve because there's nothing broken now. There's nothing to cause that symptom. So I think a lot of people give credit where they're assigning their credits to the symptoms and not to the actual core, where we've found relief from past lives, from buried pain, from buried frustration, that we've put aside to try to meet societal needs. We forget about that part that we buried, and now we're dealing with the symptoms and we can't figure out what's wrong. Well, part of my job is to use my spiritual connections to help my friends see or remember that thing they buried back there, resolve that, and then all the symptoms go away. I communicate with primarily my ancestors. However, I also communicate with another group referred to as the Lanvedi, according to the Old Norse text. These are simply spirits of the land. They are life forms without a physical form. And we communicate, particularly when you're dealing with a different cultural beliefs than my own. I have contacts through the spiritual realm who have experience with that culture, who can help me understand the thinking and the beliefs behind it. This allows me to communicate to them at the level at which they need to fix. This is going back and repairing or remembering what they buried. Well, culturally, sometimes we bury things as we try to meet the modern societal needs. We kind of bury those things, and then we forget about them. And then down the road, we start having all these symptoms, all these problems, and we've forgotten that we buried that thing decades ago. I remember now, with the help of spiritual connections, where I connected with a spiritual entity in New Orleans, Louisiana, over Mardi Gras when I was a boy. And that experience, when I was experiencing it, to me was real. It was as real as anything else. With identification, later looking at it with a little bit more of a cynical eye, or a critical eye, I should say. And of course, with communications from spiritual entities, we would discover that indeed it wasn't on the physical realm at which I had dealt that experience, but on the spiritual realm. So there's been some eye-opening later in my life, but during the events that I lived growing up, there wasn't that, oh, this is what this is, and oh, I get it. Yeah, no. And it was shunned. Again, my father, a very staunch disciplinarian, forbid us from celebrating anything, much less our Norse ancestry. So we were banned for many years. We do quite a bit. Alaska is I'm here in South Central Alaska, and Alaska is kind of very rural. Even though I live in the big city, Anchorage, it's still a very rural feel. So I deal with a lot of communities outside of Anchorage. So kind of used to phone, email, internet kind of communications. I do get to travel, which is wonderful. When I do get to go out and meet and be with people, I do have meetings here in town where we meet. There's a lot of green space here in Anchorage, where we can go and just be in nature and be able to connect there too. So all kinds of those. We try to be as real as we can. A lot of people are communicating. I work a lot with the military. So a lot of those people are email and telephone calls, text to talk with, because they're either on deployment or doing something else, or they're transferred halfway through, our sessions. So and I deal with people both in the American military and certainly in the military in the UK. I have some individuals whom I work with who are in the French military. So I'm kind of all over the place as far as certainly time zones and the amount of actual face-to-face time. It's very different. If it's actually a face-to-face, if I can actually get somewhere and sit down with them, I would say I try to keep them at an hour. And then, but when you get on the phone with someone, or, and especially if they're struggling, you want to make sure that, or I do, I have I take it very personally. So I'll stay on the phone as long as it takes to help people kind of wrap their mind around what they're dealing with. A little of both. Sometimes, it really depends on the situation. And when we talk about uncovering our past, how much uncovering do we have to do? I mean, if this is something that's just under the surface, that's kind of an easy, way forward, and I really don't have to draw on heavy resources. But when you talk about things like that cultural burying, where you're burying something decades ago, and technically you've forgotten about it completely, now it may involve where I have to draw in some other spiritual entities that can help me look beyond what's visible and what's in the right there on the surface, and now we have to go down and dig deep. And there have been some people who are 50, 60 years old, and they're burying some of this stuff as a child. That's a lot of digging. And so in those types of cases, yes, those would be a full-on trance where I would have to call upon my ancestors to help me get in through decades of shunning and banning within their own minds, to get past all that and discover where it started. And that's kind of the signature that it's time to but my mission is to not heal you. My mission is to teach you how to heal yourself, so that it's kind of a one case and done kind of thing. When we finish our sessions, however long we decide that's going to take, when we're done, you go away, you depart ways from me with a full understanding of now what it's going to take the next time you run into this same sort of situation where you discover another emotional fact that you've buried decades ago, and now you've got to do the deep work. You've got to do the same process, but now you have the tools, you understand the process, and so now you're doing it. Yes, I have had many people write. Matter of fact, I know my web team just came to me the other day, and they were asking about more letters of recommendations that they could put on the website. And I was like, here's a whole filing cabinet full of them. Go at it. Have fun. Sure, they write, but again, the key is, for me anyway, the key is when they leave, they're capable. They don't need me anymore. They have themselves, and they understand the power that they possess over these things. They have the control, and that's key. That, to me, means that they've graduated, they're healed. I never have to come back, and I don't have to worry about if 2 years after that they come and they say, oh, my knee or my hip or something is really bugging me and I just can't. Okay, use the same exercises that we talked about. And why is this? Why are you doing it? Why are you manifesting this in your life? And help them to heal themselves. Because ultimately, we and I draw it all back. The energy to cure or to heal doesn't exist in me. I mean, I'm not a set of jumper cables. I simply ignite the energy that's in you to then come forward, teach you to direct it in such a way that you heal yourself. You're the healing energy. I'm simply telling you how to stay on the lane, drive the truck to where you need it to be. That's all. And I think when I work with people, that's really what I try to do. I don't do the healing. I direct them to heal themselves. But more importantly, to learn how to do that so that they become self-sufficient and they can do it going forward. They don't need me anymore. On the same note, I think humanity values, or it can become more as we teach more people that they are the energy source to heal themselves, to heal others. We are, we're always surprised, and I always am entertained by it, but we're always surprised with the energy of words. In Norse legend, we have a belief that Odin, the chieftain of the Norse gods, was impaled on his own spear into the trunk of Yggdrasil, the center tree of life. And there he hung for 9 days and 9 nights with no food, no water, that he may see the magic of the runes. And think about it for a moment. What are runes? What were the runes? Well, they were a Germanic alphabet, is what the runes are. They were Proto-Germanic writing. So they're each a letter. You put letters together to form words, words together to form sentences, and sentences together to form ideas and concepts. This is a method of transferring energy. So I'm transferring the energy of my thought through your sensory input into your mind. Now you have this. Now what are you going to do with it? And so on and so forth. But as we begin to allow people to have their own narration to that and understand that, we begin to make humanity a better place for everyone. Again, though, you're looking at someone who taught you the value of yourself and your power, that gives you some of that extra push into your visions, into your ability to see beyond. And so that's really what shaman do, is that we ignite within you the energy of healing. Here everyone thinks it was us, and it's not. It really isn't. It's really the individual, and we're a simple conduit. You to ignite that fire and to use it constructively for value of bringing in your authentic self, that you can be happy and find comfort and joy. I tell a story very frequently on my morning show, and in the story, when my father passed, I was a young man, and my father finally passed. And when he passed, in the morning of the day, we didn't celebrate. We mourned during a funeral, and that same evening, then we had my family comes from a pretty long line of Irish as well, so we celebrated with an Irish wake in the evening. Now, I don't remember very much of the Irish wake because there was alcohol served, and things got really fun by midnight. But when I reviewed this with my ancestors years later, they told me that's exactly a perfect picture of life, in that when we mourn the loss of a physical form, we're not mourning for them. We think we are, but we're not. We're actually mourning for us, because we don't have them to go give a hug or have a good talk or a cup of tea or whatever anymore, and so we're mourning our loss. And then in the evening, when I went to the wake, of course, the Irish look at the event very differently, in that they don't worry so much about the physical form loss as they want to celebrate the arrival of the spirit in the spiritual realm. And so they've gone home, right? So they're home in the spiritual realm, and so they're going to celebrate that. And that's where, of course, for me, it led to a lot of alcohol, and things got a little hazy by midnight. But all I heard at the Irish wake, and I remember this very clearly today, is there were stories about all the foolish things my father did when he was alive. And they told stories like when he was a kid and he was doing this, that, and the other thing, or just being crazy, just being a kid, right? But it was all done with laughter and joy and relief, versus the morning, it was somber, it was sad, it was a very different side of But looking back on it now, I was seeing it from a very different perspective. Seeing the event of the physical passing, I was just seeing it from a different perspective. Well, there comes a point where grieving loses its value. And this is when we talk about depression. What we've gone now is we've slipped beyond the useful value of grieving into a point where we're simply carrying baggage. And so now we have to kind of say, all right, well, why are we carrying this baggage? Well, we don't deserve. Stop. Whoa. All right, let's talk about that. Why don't we deserve it? And so then you start this kind of surface discovery process until you discover that, you know, they've got something that's buried from many decades ago. And we say, oh, all right, here's why. And then and then we're going to teach you now how to fix that. So that, because the chances are you're going to run into it again, right? You know, you're going to lose someone else who's dear to you, and you're going to carry that grief too far. Why? Well, because I deserve this, or, you know, I'm such a bad person, when in fact you're not. You're quite the contrary. You're perfect the way you are. Why are you still carrying grief? And why is, and so getting to teach you how to continue that process allows you to get through life with disappointment, with loss, with you know, setbacks, and those types of things that will naturally occur in our life to test us, to teach us, to help us to grow to where we need to be. And the problem is that it feeds into other things, you know, is if you have doubt, if you have, you know, self-esteem struggles, if you have some of these other mental challenges, that grief is going to filter right into there, and it's going to help. That's going to help carry it even further, where it's no longer really constructive to you as a person. You know, understanding the grief process and being able to change your perspective is really the growing part that people need to learn. Well, I will definitely say, and to your point, as far as the cost goes, the website is the best answer for everything about me, about my studies, about my practice. Certainly, we have several shows that we put out. One is very pertinent, and that is a daily kind of an energy boost that I do every morning here in Alaska. And that show for Felinas Belisnik is for that phrase. It means ancestral illumination. And so the goal is to just get you that energy to start your day. And every day that show is theme based, so it's based on the gods that I represent, that I recognize, because the weekdays are all named after Norse gods, so makes it easy. And the goal is, again, to get that message out, broadcast it far and wide, that people who need who need those tools to obtain or maintain their mental space can find those words and hopefully seek and get some encouragement from that. So our shows are all kind of structured around that idea, the message of helping you obtain or maintain your mental space, because that's absolutely critical for us to evolve as a species approach going forward. So all the shows are structured that way. And so we do have one on television. It's on the Ethereal TV network. That's Whispers of the Norse. That show, again, all of this stuff is available on our website. You can find out all the details about all those shows. So, but those are the greatest way. We also have a book out. I have a book we wrote last year, called The Turn to Final. And The Turn to Final is a book about understanding how and why you think the way you do. It is from a spiritual perspective. So it kind of puts together all the biology, all the physiology with the spirituality and the psychology, kind of bundles it all into a message that hopefully helps people understand why they think what they do. So that was the idea of the book anyway. So that's out there as well. So there's just a bunch of ways. Again, as a shaman, my goal is to teach you, or the listeners and the readers and the watchers, all of those folks, teach them how to heal themselves, because they truly are the energy, they truly are the medicine that they need to be healthy and successful.